everyone. Welcome back to yet another episode of our podcast, European Stories from European Volunteers. This week's European comes from Lithuania and crossed the Baltic Sea to volunteer in Borås, Sweden. Currently, she's back in Lithuania in Vilnius, but is pursuing a master's degree in Sweden. So, Vilija Nemanytė, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
You're not so far away from Sweden, but you decided to do an EVS project, a volunteering project. Why did you decide to do it in the first place?
Yeah, mostly because at the time I was not really enjoying my life or my work life. Mostly I was working for a huge corporation and just was really stuck in a rut and not fulfilling my personal goals or needs. So that's why, for sure.
Mm-hmm. And did you choose Sweden for any specific reason, or how did you decide the project that you decided, or how did you come about this opportunity, and in the end, how did you choose your project specifically?
I'm not sure how to answer the first question. I probably heard about EVS back at school, many, many years ago. And then somehow this opportunity just popped up and I was just really, really scrolling, browsing and so on and just checking what is out there. And there was this ad saying urgent, we need a person, blah, blah, blah. And I was just reading all the info and thinking, oh, this is so interesting and so completely different what I'm used to. So I was okay, this one really fits the bill. So I just thought, why not?
Okay, but from my experience, it's also a very easy opportunity to take in. So was that also a factor for you? How easy it was to participate in this volunteering project?
Yeah, it was rather easy because probably I was really it was more like a spur of the moment. I was oh, they are right now looking. They really need a person. And I was because somebody dropped out. I was okay, sure. And then they just called me and saying blah, 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 blah. And I was okay, yeah, that sounds amazing. And then less than a month, I just somehow moved to Sweden.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a change, an immediate change. You don't really expect that. But let's start talking a little bit more about the volunteering and what you did. When you arrived in Sweden, what was the first impression that you got? What was the first thought that occurred to your mind?
Okay, so at first I thought whoa, this is really a simple kind of lifestyle. And the city itself reminded me of Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was okay, this is very intriguing. And I don't know, somehow everybody seemed a bit more down to earth or just approachable in a sense.
Okay. And the accommodation that you stayed in, how was it? Or was it in this small town? And who did you share? Did you share it with anyone? Or how were you living?
So I was basically living in a baroque kind of house. So all of us were living on the same floor, on the second floor. So there were 12 rooms or so. So I had my own room, my own fridge, my own sink, etc.
Okay.
And it was a social housing place. Yeah, it was definitely social housing because there were also some refugees living in the same house. But at the same time, it was pretty good comparing to some other places.
Okay. And this accommodation that you mentioned, there is a social housing. Was it also related, or the reason why you were there, was it also related with the work that you're doing?
No, not really. I would maybe there's like a tiny connection that the accommodation itself was offered by the local municipality, and I was working for the local municipality. So
what were you doing with them? How were you working with the municipality? What were your main tasks?
So my project was a bit extraordinary in a sense. So it was like a dual project. So like 3 days a week, I would go to the municipality and plan lots of events for the local youth, including social media project, mobility projects, and just advertisement, promotion, engagement, just lots of planning, organizing, and finally going to a place and meeting the youth like face to face.
And all this type of different work with the youth and the planning, what was the thing that stood out the most to you in terms of what was the thing that kind of enriched you the most, that you liked the most in the end?
So I haven't finished actually. So the second part.
Sorry.
The second part of my project was actually working with, how should I put this, troublesome or just unprivileged youth coming from different walks of life. And my colleague and I, we worked with several groups, and we train those people for an internship abroad, like their very first internship abroad. So we taught them English. We kind of provided them with certain social skills. We played lots of games. We talked a lot about culture shock, communication, lots of things. So that was like a bit of hard and rewarding experience, I would say.
And so you mentioned about the cultural shocks. Was there, or could you share some of the comments that you, or some of the discussion that you had with these colleagues of yours? Because, I mean, for me, coming from Portugal and now living in Sweden, there is a cultural shock. And of course, in Sweden, you have a lot of people from a lot of different places. For you, coming from Lithuania, was there anything or that was a cultural shock for you?
That's a tricky question. Maybe how much they love transparency, meetings, and just communication and this investment in people. That was something that I really was like fascinated by, and I personally really loved. And it's like, oh, this is great because you have like a say, no matter who you are. So
last question regarding the volunteering. Was there something besides this rewarding things and in your daily work that you had? Was there something challenging that you had to face and to overcome? Well, it's always not very comfortable to talk about challenges, but at the same time, we can't grow. I mean, we should be transparent to our listeners. So, I mean, you only tell whatever you're comfortable with. Oh, sure. Yeah. So, of course, there were certain challenges like working with troublesome youngsters and meeting their needs and meeting my own needs as a sort of coach or trainer and helping them. And yeah, that was challenging because if you raise the bar rather high, then you may get disappointed at some point. Trying not to raise the bar too high, would that be like your learning that you had from this, from working with the troublesome youngsters? Or would you take out, like, what did you learn from it? Yeah, you could say so, not raising the bar too high. And at the same time, just taking small steps. Yeah. And not like bashing yourself for every single mistake, or just not letting yourself say that, oh, I just failed, I'm not good enough. You do what you can do. Yeah, one step at a time, right? Yeah. Okay, So now imagine that you are at dinner with some friends and you're talking about life in general, and they're asking you about your volunteering experience. So they ask or they want you to share some of your experiences. And the question I like to ask, or imagine that your friends ask this, is what was the craziest story from your project that you had during this year, or that you could share with us?
Yeah. The craziest story. Okay. So our coordinators organized us a camping trip, and some of us actually went to the nature reserve and spent a night there. And it was like a very extraordinary experience, because it wasn't just about like camping, sitting in front of the fire, or just eating or enjoying the nature, but also it was all about going out there, exploring the nature, and being like in the nature. Like our coordinators arranged us some tasks, and we were supposed to go there and find certain like birds or certain plants or something like that, whilst working together as a team. And that was a very good move from their side, because we didn't manage to work as a team in like very good manner, because once you have to work as a team and reach a certain goal and assign like different tasks, you just see like how impatient or how bad you are at certain things.
At the same time, you understood that you try to collaborate with each other, but sometimes, there are people that also can't, you can be professionals, but it's not that you are the best match with everyone. So it also makes perfect sense as well. But thank you for sharing. So usually I just ask for the craziest story. Would you like to share like the happiest memory that you have?
The happiest memory?
Yeah.
Probably in general, I would say just seeing myself growing as a person and the people I was working with, like seeing them to grow at like step by step, and seeing them change and learn from every single task we had given them. And yeah, seeing that picture, like the bigger picture.
Okay, we're almost reaching the end of today's episode. And in this part, I would like to ask you some quick checkout questions. So nothing too big. You can just say the first thing that comes to mind and maybe give a small explanation for it. So first one. How would you describe your volunteering project in just one word?
I would say probably humbleness.
Why humbleness?
Probably because I believe I had grown a lot as a person during that year, and especially when you have a lot of anxiety, and you can't ground yourself as a person. And then after a certain amount of time, you see like, oh, there had been some kind of progress, because I can actually overcome certain situations and deal with certain people and with myself.
Next one. What is the thing that you miss the most from volunteering?
Oh, the city itself. And the nature, yeah, that probably, because whenever you like move away and you kind of settle down and just accept that that's your home, you
feel complete.
Yeah, in a sense.
And last two questions. What song represents your project or this year that you spent in Sweden? And why did you choose it?
What song? Probably there's this song called Borås, Borås, and it's a very silly, dumb song with very, very ridiculous lyrics. But I have chosen this one because we actually sang it during somebody's farewell party. So, and it was like very epic party because we had like big karaoke and just sang very loudly, and it was something.
Okay, so for those who want to listen to this song, you can check it out on our playlist. We'll leave the link in the show notes. And last question, what does solidarity mean to you?
That's a good question. Probably, yeah, giving without expecting anything in return for sure. And then also always having somebody else's back, no matter what the circumstances are. So I believe solidarity is very much based on equity.
Nice. Thank you for these nice words. Thank you for joining me and for sharing your experience today. We've just reached the end of our episode. I would like to tell everyone to join in for next week.
Thank you.